Tonight, Sydney's celebration of sweet freedom. Not a moment wasted as we rush to take our lives back and return to the pub, the shops, the gym and the hair salon. Emotional reunions as the long separation of families and friends finally comes to an end. Sydney unmasked, rules relaxed on covering up while outdoors, but habits die hard for some. Airfare frenzy, flights to our regional areas under $50 to help rebuild the tourist sector. Everest exemption, the crowd size double for Saturday's big race at Royal Randwick. And Sydney's arts revival, how our theatres, cinemas and performers are ready to entertain you once again.
This is 10 News First Sydney with Sandra Sully.
Good evening. It might have seemed like the lockdown would go on forever, but finally Freedom Day has arrived, and wasn't it greeted with an explosion of joy and relief. Despite some drizzle, Sydney-siders have been out enjoying the things they've been denied for months, many of them drinking every drop of freedom from the stroke of midnight. We have the day covered from every angle and begin with Daniel Sutton.
Thank you very much.
The first sip of a Freedom Frothy draft beer fresh from the tap.
How's that taste?
Mate, that tastes fantastic. Really good. Great to be out of lockdown, mate.
It ended at the stroke of midnight. And some couldn't bear to wait a minute longer. Across Sydney, many clubs threw their doors open.
Also your proof of vaccination, please.
For the double-jabbed, freedom meant a glass half full.
Oh, thanks, Wendy. Thank you. Cheers.
Or perhaps a trolley full to overflowing. Kmart was chaos in the early hours.
And you should see how many people are here. It's crazy.
And this was the midnight lineup for Spotlight, the end of their fabric fast.
3, 2, 1, go!
In Penrith, they counted down to their first gym class in months, burning off that lockdown energy.
Welcome! Welcome!
And here, the excited jig of a couple who booked in for haircuts at 12:01 a.m.
We have a busy night ahead. We're doing pretty much a 21-hour hair marathon.
Across town, before sunrise, barbershop scissors were being sharpened.
Do the sides and then maybe take like about that much off? Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
As lockdown dues went in for the chop.
I'm feeling a bit lighter in the head.
Do you remember what to do?
Yeah, I remember what I'm doing, but Carl actually did a number on his hair, so trying to cut it himself. So I got to try to figure out a workaround for that one.
And as shop shutters went up, some customers were left looking for workarounds too.
Got my second dose on over the weekend, and unfortunately it's struggling to lock up my link both my Medicare and MyGov account at the moment. So
Alex wanted a pair of shoes at this store in Westfield, Parramatta, but couldn't prove he was double jabbed.
When can you go shopping?
hopefully once I go see Medicare in the next, 2 hours.
But for most, the two-step system worked. New nails, coffee in a cafe.
It actually makes you feel human again.
An outing that's not a park.
Although we can't go to a play centre, but we can come here and at least get some new toys.
It does feel like an eternity since we've been able to shop like this in person, but if you need proof, well, have a look here. While the doors have been shut, all of this stock has been moved in. That's right, it's almost Christmas.
And it's so nice to see everything opened up. It really is.
At indoor pools, those familiar sounds returned.
We were getting a bit nervous coming up to summer, so it's good to be able to get back in the pool.
And with social calendars being filled, so too are some cracks and crevices.
We all feel emotionally traumatised because of this lockdown. I think we really need to feel liberated. We want to feel good about ourselves.
At this skin clinic at Double Bay, there's been a surge in Botox bookings.
I do have my little frown lines, my little cross frown lines that need a bit of action.
And while masks are no longer compulsory outdoors today, many were still wearing them as Sydney navigated a gloomy first day out of lockdown.
Look, it hasn't dampened the spirits. Everyone's out and happy and the drinks are flowing and the food's coming out.
I might come here in daggy jeans usually, but not today. I had to dress up.
A celebration to end the monotony.
When you think of 3 months or 4 months in isolation and you can't go anywhere, and your biggest happiness moment was going to Woolies.
I want to get to Dan now, who's live from Glebe. Dan, dinner at the pub is definitely back on the menu.
Oh, Sandra, the schnitzels have been flying out the door here pretty quickly, not as fast as the beer, I might tell you. Funnily enough, this pub was filled with mannequins and cardboard cutouts just a couple of days ago as we got ready to reopen after lockdown. Now it's full of, well, a lot noisier and thirstier people. In fact, every man and his dog is here at the pub today, enjoying the atmosphere and enjoying lockdown. As you can see, Ari's certainly enjoying himself here. It's funny, people have popped in to do a bit of work during the day. Some have popped in just for a quick drink or lunch, and others, well, they arrived probably around the time they opened here at 11 o'clock, and they have every intention of staying here all the way through till midnight. Sandra, good luck to them.
Indeed. All right, Dan, thank you. For many Sydney families, Freedom Day has meant reuniting with their loved ones who live in other LGAs or more than 5 kilometres away. From babies to the elderly, there have been countless heartwarming get-togethers. But those with families in country New South Wales will have to wait a little bit longer.
Lockdowns have meant Helen Vochisano missed her granddaughter's first birthday and first steps, and this probably wasn't the welcome back she'd hoped for.
Oh, she doesn't know.
But it's nothing a cuddle from son Dean and grandson Liam can't smooth over.
Hello, my precious angel. Aria cried and screamed at me because she's not real sure of me at the moment because I haven't seen her for a long time. And Liam was just jumping everywhere and carrying on silly like he always does.
In Killara East, Norman and Michelle Grave got to finally see daughter Lisa and granddaughter Emma. Even better, the family matriarch was fresh out of the hair salon.
My nails are done, her hair's done. We're good to go. 20 kilometres, you know, it seems so close but yet far that we haven't seen them for 4 months.
74-year-old Marvin Bayers lives at Bupa Aged Care in Balcombe Hills. He's been keeping in contact with his family over the phone. It hasn't been easy.
I don't see them face to face personally.
But he's excited for what's ahead.
Hopefully, if I can get out in March next year to go to my first grandchild's wedding.
It's opened up a lot of emotion, and people are so happy to come and see their family.
But for those in Sydney who have family in country New South Wales, those reunions will have to wait a bit longer. Under the current roadmap, regional travel for non-essential reasons gets the green light after the state reaches the 80% double-dose vaccination rate. For others, today wasn't all about family, with places of worship allowed to open to the fully vaccinated. Whether it's for family or for faith, these new freedoms have undoubtedly answered many prayers. Paris Martin for 10 News First.
Tourism operators in our state's regions are hoping to go from bordering on bust to booming within weeks. Right now, Sydney siders are locked out, but that will all change once we hit the 80% vaccination milestone. One major airline is already helping drive the revival, enticing us with cheap airfares to hard-hit towns.
Byron's empty Bay Motel, a symbol of a tourist town's struggles as border closures, lockdowns and its low vax rates wreak havoc.
When I say Byron was on its knees, that's literal. I'm not making that up. I mean, you've only got to see the amount of properties for sale and the empty shops.
Now Michelle Visser is puffing the pillows and doing a once-over, expecting a surge in visitors within weeks.
It's really just bricks and mortar without the people coming in the door. So we are so excited.
The airlines are coming to the party. Virgin is offering $49 sail fares from Sydney to Ballina and Coffs.
This is all about getting everybody up in the air and off to somewhere wonderful in regional New South Wales.
But all that optimism comes with a warning about the need for us all to get the jab.
Consumers are going to vote with their feet. They're going to choose to go to places where there's a high level of vaccination.
Byron is still lagging behind most council areas with just 41.6% of locals double dosed.
I didn't really think I needed it until I got a job.
I've got to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and I'd like to go to the pub.
But pubs in regions which have largely avoided lockdown are from today having to lock out the unvaccinated.
It might be Freedom Day for Sydney, but out here in regional New South Wales, we're losing some of our freedoms.
Businesses are just grateful they're able to get that revenue rolling in once again.
They have had to make hard decisions even in transitioning out of lockdown in terms of capital investment, staff rostering and so forth.
It's exciting. It was quite nerve-wracking actually to be open again.
Heading into the critical Christmas New Year holiday period, there's still some major things on the wish lists of regional businesses.
We need the Queensland border to open. We need Melbourne to open. We need to get Sydney-siders up here.
Michael Hammond for 10 News First.
Paris Martin is with me now. Paris, you've got the latest data on the vaccination rates covering local government areas.
Yes, Sandra, and we can now confirm that all but one LGA in New South Wales has passed the 70% first dose coverage of over 16s. The only remaining area is in Edward River in the Western Riverina region. It's currently sitting on 62.7%. Now, in the last week, there have been some big jumps in vaccination rates across the state, including in regional areas. If we look to Dubbo, almost 95% of people have received their first dose and just under 80% have received their second. That's up from 73% last week, while Gilgandra has more than 95% first dose coverage and almost 84% second dose, which puts it almost on par with some of our most vaccinated city LGAs. The highest double dose rates are in the Hills Shire, which is the first area in Sydney to surpass the 90% double dose coverage. It's followed closely behind by Guringai and Camden at 89, Hornsby 87 and Blacktown 83 second dose. So Sandra, some positive data there as we look towards that next milestone, which is the 80% double dose vaccination rate.
Can't come soon enough. All right, thanks, Paris. A haircut and a beer. That's how the Premier has welcomed the easing of restrictions, acknowledging COVID case numbers and hospitalisations will inevitably rise. Dominic Perrottet says today is the first step towards learning to live with the virus and setting an example for the rest of the country.
Dan, how are you? Putting the Dom in freedom. The new Premier chopping off the locks to mark the end of lockdown.
Every time I come here, there are more greys that are coming out every time.
It must have been 5 o'clock somewhere because his next stop saw 4 politicians walk into a bar before 10 a.m, jumping behind the counter to pour what the Deputy Premier calls
the Freedom Frothy.
The excitement of the moment, perhaps to blame for rule makers forgetting you're not allowed to drink while standing up indoors.
There are still restrictions in place. It's not a free-for-all.
After having 2 women at the forefront of the state's health response, the start of the economic recovery has been welcomed by blokes with beers. The Premier says it's disappointing his predecessor couldn't join them.
Glad, as you know, has led us through this pandemic. I know she's here in spirit and, you never know. Glad might even go out and have a beer herself tonight.
Across town, the man who wants his job started the day the exact same way. The removal of Chris Minns's mini mullet, raising $7,000 for charity. The Labor leader then heading to the Revesby Workers Club.
No one deserves a beer more than the people of Western Sydney and southwestern Sydney, who've played by the rules and gone through the toughest lockdown of any part of Australia over the last 15 weeks.
For many businesses, attracting customers will be the easy part. Finding the staff to serve them has been the real challenge. Watson's at Moore Park struggled to find enough workers for its first official day of trade.
We've had job adverts out via social media, the likes of your large recruitment agencies, and they're just not around to get.
A problem felt more acutely in regional areas. When it comes to fixing labour shortages, business groups believe the answer is elementary. Reopen international borders.
We don't have the backpackers coming through. We don't have those people doing those overseas experience.
The 1st of November has been flagged as the restart date of international travel. The state government is trialling having travellers quarantine at home for 7 days.
There is really no point into the future of having people who are double vaccinated coming back into Australia and sitting in a hotel for 2 weeks when they can sit at home for a shorter period of time.
One more issue to be addressed. When do we bring back the handshake? Lachlan Kennedy for 10 News First.
I want to bring in Charlotte Goodlett now. Charlotte, reopening will bring, of course, new cases. So what's happened in other countries when they've opened up?
Sandra, we can definitely expect case numbers to rise. The hope is they'll be limited by the vaccination rate. Let's take a look at what happened in Singapore when they opened up in mid-August. Then they had about 50 cases a day and barely any deaths. Now cases are at 3,500 a day, but still a small number of deaths. There were 11 yesterday, and that's down to their double-jabbed vaccination rate of about 80%. A similar story in Israel. They eased restrictions in mid-June when they had about 25 cases and 3 deaths a day. After hitting a peak in mid-September, they're now at 2,500 cases and about 20 deaths a day, with a full vaccination rate of about 86%. The UK declared Freedom Day on July the 19th. That was right in the middle of a peak in case numbers of 45,000 a day, along with 50 deaths. Now, case numbers are down, but only slightly, to around 40,000 a day, while the number of deaths has climbed to about 100 a day. They are at a vaccination rate of 67%, but they also have a high number of people who've had a prior infection. Well, what about New South Wales? Case numbers today are at 496, and sadly, there were 8 deaths. Our vaccination rate is 90.4% single dose, 73.9% double dose. So, Sandra, hopefully our high vaccination rate will mean the state's hospital system can cope, especially as we head towards what will no doubt be a very, very busy festive season.
All right, Charlotte, thank you. Well, still to come, it's Freedom Day 2 for the Prime Minister. Emerging from isolation after 14 days, singing a new tune on climate policy. The groundbreaking device revolutionising heart transplants, and it's already saved lives. London police dropped their investigation into Prince Andrew, but he's not completely off the hook. And Freedom Day celebrations continue. It's time to get out the popcorn as the arts sector roars back to life. Good evening. It has been a truly momentous day in the history of our